The soft spring sunlight bathes Westlake Hills, an upscale residential area in suburban Austin, Texas. Bird songs and the gentle sound of garden sprinklers create a peaceful morning atmosphere. The fresh green lawn glistens with morning dew. Rachel Campbell, maintaining her habit from Yale Law School days, had awakened before dawn. Her position as a partner at a prestigious law firm brought her an annual income of over $200,000. While brewing coffee in the kitchen, she gazes out the window at the backyard, where an unused pool sits quietly in the morning mist. Her laptop, placed on the sleek stainless steel counter, already displays today's schedule. "Michael, you have brunch plans with your mother today, don't you?" Rachel gently reminds her husband Michael. As the sales director of a real estate development company, he shows a slightly awkward expression, having recently failed to secure a promotion due to poor performance. Somehow, he alone couldn't achieve results during Texas's real estate boom. "Mom will probably get excited about the new megachurch again," Michael says with a wry smile. His mother, Elizabeth Campbell, had grown increasingly dependent on her son since losing her husband 3 years ago. As a former bank branch manager, she was known for her strict conservative values and concern for appearances. She never missed a Sunday at Riverbend Church and actively participated in community activities. This spring, in their 10th year of marriage, Rachel had made a significant decision. She decided to purchase and gift an $850,000 house to her mother-in-law. Since her husband couldn't qualify for the loan, she would bear the entire cost herself. "This isn't an investment," Rachel mutters to herself while examining the gift deed in her law firm's impressive office. Having experienced 2 miscarriages, she was seeking a new form of family bond. The deed contained several special provisions, added with her legal professional's caution. Her years of experience told her these clauses were necessary. After finishing her shopping at Central Market, Rachel met Elizabeth in the Riverbend Church parking lot. Elizabeth was visibly excited during their drive to the quiet suburban neighborhood. As they entered the residential area, streets lined with luxurious Texas-style mansions stretched before them. The 4-bedroom house with a pool made Elizabeth's eyes sparkle. "Rachel, such a wonderful house." Elizabeth signed the contract, unable to contain her emotion. On moving day, they were blessed with typical Texas sunshine. Professional landscapers had already tended to the spacious hill country-style garden. Antique-style furniture chosen to Elizabeth's taste was moved into the master bedroom, and high-end appliances lined the custom kitchen. The marble countertops gleamed in the morning sun, and new hangers were installed in the walk-in closet. Rachel quietly carried in boxes, her reserved yet strong character evident in her movements. While handing over the HOA rulebook, she watched her mother-in-law's delighted face. She believed this new life in the community would surely make her mother-in-law happy. With the meticulous nature she had developed since her paralegal days, she had perfectly prepared every detail of the move. About 3 months after the gift, subtle changes began to appear in Elizabeth's attitude. It was as if a mask she had worn for years was slowly peeling away. "Say, Rachel, what kind of house did you grow up in?" Elizabeth casually asks while preparing for Thanksgiving. When Rachel answers that she comes from a middle-class background in the kitchen filled with the aroma of roasting turkey, Elizabeth flashes a meaningful smile. "I see, this house is much grander." As expected, it's more fitting for us Campbells. At weekend garden parties, Elizabeth had excluded Rachel from the guest list. Rachel, who happened to be tending to the garden, overheard Elizabeth telling the neighborhood ladies by the poolside under white parasols, "This house was bought with my son's earnings." The rumor quickly spread through the Riverbend church community, and the once friendly neighbors' glances gradually turned cold. Eventually, a defamatory letter arrived at Rachel's parents' home. Written on fine stationery, it read, "Your daughter is just using my son. She's tarnishing the Campbell family name." Rachel's mother wept, and her father trembled with anger. "Don't mind what Mom says. It's just her way of showing affection," Michael said, but his words became increasingly uncertain. His return time grew later, and his weekend excuses of work obligations increased. He began keeping a secret new phone and using password-protected apps. The scent of expensive aftershave grew stronger than before. One day, returning from a law firm partners meeting, Rachel happened to spot her husband at Central Market. She could hardly believe her eyes as she saw him shopping intimately with a young woman in the wine section. The woman was a new sales representative at the real estate company. However, her legal professional's composure kept her emotions in check. That night, she silently checked her husband's phone records. She found numerous messages and photos of secret meetings. Elizabeth knew about her son's affair. In fact, she seemed to be actively encouraging it. "Michael, you could have children with her, unlike Rachel, who only cares about her career." Rachel accidentally overheard this mother-son conversation in the church parking lot. The pain of her miscarriages gripped her heart once again. On the morning marking 1 year since the gift, Elizabeth turned to Rachel with a cold smile and said, "I've changed the locks, so strangers should stay out." The newly planted roses in the front garden bed glistened with morning dew. That evening, when Rachel returned home after working overtime, an anticipated scene awaited her. Michael, the familiar young woman, and Elizabeth sat in the living room under the luxurious chandelier. An expensive brand of wine was already decanted. "Let's not drag this out any longer," Michael began in a cold voice. His usual indecisive manner had vanished, making him seem like a different person. "I'm starting a new life here with my mistress, so you need to leave," he said, throwing divorce papers at her. The documents scattered across the floor, lying pathetically on Elizabeth's favorite Persian rug. Elizabeth sat deep in the antique sofa with a triumphant expression. "Rachel, this house was too much for you. You're different from our class. Though it was a gift, this place should be occupied by someone more suitable." The young woman shifted uncomfortably in her seat, occasionally casting pitying glances at Rachel. Clutching an expensive designer bag, she seemed to already consider herself the new lady of the house. Her natural way of leaning against Michael's arm showed signs of long practice. Rachel slowly stood up. "I understand," her voice was surprisingly calm. She retrieved a pre-packed suitcase from the upstairs closet. Carrying a bag containing only the bare necessities, her steps down the marble staircase were almost graceful. "Thank you for cleaning up," Elizabeth threw out sarcastically. "Shouldn't you at least leave some words of gratitude? For this luxurious life in this house?" She swirled her wineglass arrogantly as she delivered her final insult. Rachel turned around at the entrance. The soft twilight illuminated her profile. "I will quietly leave the house and have prepared a surprise for them." For a moment, Elizabeth flinched at the dignified light in her eyes. Just before getting into her luxury car, Rachel took out her smartphone. A series of pre-prepared emails were sent simultaneously to the law firm, sheriff's office, and bailiffs. The Texas sunset painted her determined profile red. In her law firm office on the top floor of a skyscraper, Rachel spread out the gift deed she had created a year ago. By the window where city lights twinkled, she admired each special provision as if appreciating a work of art. Well thought out, veteran real estate attorney Joseph Morrison remarked admiringly. These provisions brilliantly combine Texas state laws, restitution of unjust enrichment, and limitation of rights abuse. The special provisions in the gift deed clearly stated. Article 1. In the event of significant infringement of the donor's rights or the donor's interests, the gifted property shall be immediately returned to the donor. Article 2. If the gifted property is used contrary to the donor's intentions, the gift contract becomes void at that point. Article 3. Written consent from the donor is required to allow third parties to reside in the gifted property. Article 4. In case of violation of the above provisions, the donor has the right to immediate forced execution by judicial officers. Did you anticipate this situation a year ago? Morrison asked, to which Rachel quietly nodded. Elizabeth's personality reminded me of my mother. But there was a crucial difference. My mother has compassion for others. Elizabeth doesn't. There was always a calculating look in her eyes. Rachel pulled out a thick file from her desk drawer. It contained evidence collected over the past year. The first section contained witness statements of Elizabeth's false explanations to neighbors. 5 witnesses corroborated her claim that, "My son provided the funds for the house purchase." Audio recordings confirmed similar statements made at the Riverbend Church Women's Group. The second section contained evidence of Michael's infidelity. Photos of secret meetings at upscale restaurants, hotel reservation records, and most decisively, voice recorder data of conversations between the two. Everything had been legally collected by professional investigators. "This is surprising," Morrison exclaimed while reviewing the third section. It contained records of illegal financial transactions between Elizabeth and Michael. Elizabeth had used her knowledge as a former bank branch manager to falsely inflate Michael's income. Email exchanges revealed attempts to commit fraud in the mortgage application process. "I've already consulted with the sheriff's office," Rachel calmly explained. "I've requested their presence during the forced execution. Elizabeth's criminal record will also serve as leverage." Morrison shook his head admiringly. "I've never seen such perfect preparation. The other side will have almost no room for argument." The full moon visible through the office's large windows seemed to agree with Rachel, shining as if the goddess of justice were smiling in the Texas sky. "Have you decided on the timing for execution?" To Morrison's question, Rachel checked an email from the bailiff. "Tomorrow at 8 a.m. During their breakfast time, her voice showed no hesitation. "Elizabeth prepares for church women's group every Thursday morning. Michael has plans to meet his mistress then. Perfect timing." Rachel stood up and walked toward the night view. The skyscraper lights flickered like flames of revenge. "For a year, I've endured all their insults. A mother-in-law who mocked a woman who experienced miscarriage, hurt my parents, and encouraged her son's affair. And a husband who betrayed all love. But I have the law. Justice is my weapon." She returned to her desk and signed the final execution order. "Tomorrow morning, they will face legal judgment. While sending the final confirmation email to the bailiff, Rachel smiled quietly. This isn't revenge. It's the execution of justice. Late at night, she began her final confirmation work. The original gift deed, notary signature, property registry transcript, and backup evidence documents. All preparations were complete. A year of patience and planning was about to bear fruit. Another envelope was prepared in her desk drawer. An anonymous information letter to local media outlets. The scoop: former bank branch manager's misconduct exposed, forced eviction drama in luxury residential area, would circulate throughout Texas tomorrow. Elizabeth's greatest fear: the collapse of social standing. That would be Rachel's final gift. Thunder rumbled in the Austin sky. Tomorrow morning, the lightning of justice would strike the family wrapped in false happiness. Rachel offered a final prayer, believing this would be the beginning of the end. In the misty morning of suburban Austin, the clock showed 7:45 a.m. 3 black SUVs carrying the bailiff team quietly entered the luxury residential area. The lead car carried Deputy Sheriff Thomas Henderson. Despite 26 years of experience, forced execution in such a luxury home was rare. "Are you ready?" Rachel's calm voice echoed in Henderson's earpiece. She had parked her car 2 blocks away in an alley. "Everything's perfect." "They're acting as predicted," Henderson replied while observing the house through binoculars. "The lady is busy preparing for church gathering. Your son arrived earlier with a young woman." Rachel checked her watch. As planned, Michael should be having breakfast with his mistress. Elizabeth would also be busy preparing for the women's group. Thursday mornings were when she was most distracted. "Let's begin." At Rachel's signal, the bailiff team moved into action. Reporters emerged from the second car. Local television stations and Austin American-Statesman newspaper reporters. The anonymous tip from the previous night had surely taken effect. At 8 a.m., the bailiffs rang the intercom. When Elizabeth opened the door, uniformed bailiffs stood solemnly. "Mrs. Elizabeth Campbell, I'm Bailiff James Monroe. We're here to execute a court order." Monroe produced official documents. "This is a property return order due to gift contract violation." Elizabeth's face turned pale. "What kind of joke is this?" Her voice trembled. "This is my house." "Michael." Michael burst out from the living room. His untied tie revealed the morning's hastiness. His mistress peeked from behind him, her makeup incomplete. "This is a serious mistake." Michael raised his voice. "What authority do you have over Mother's house?" "This is execution based on special provisions in the gift contract," Monroe continued calmly. "The details of the provisions are here." Elizabeth's face gradually drained of color as she read through the contract. "I never knew such provisions existed." At that moment, Rachel approached quietly. In a perfect suit, she radiated dignity like the goddess of law. "Good morning, Elizabeth." Rachel's voice was ice cold. "Do you remember that day a year ago when I gifted this house?" Elizabeth was speechless. Michael stood frozen, mouth agape, unable to comprehend the situation. The mistress, sensing the circumstances, tried to slip out through the entrance. "Please gather your essential belongings within 30 minutes, the bailiff continued. "After that, you'll be subject to arrest for trespassing." Neighbors began gathering in the street. The gossip-loving HOA president Mrs. Grace had stopped in her morning jogging outfit. Media cameras meticulously recorded this dramatic scene. "This is illegal," Elizabeth screamed. "I have rights." "Your rights were forfeited when you violated mine," Rachel responded calmly. "It's clearly stated in Articles 1 and 2 of the gift contract." Bailiffs entered the house to supervise the evacuation. Michael hurriedly gathered documents. Elizabeth clutched her expensive jewelry case while breaking down in tears. "Rachel, let's talk about this," Michael approached pleadingly. "I'll apologize for everything." But Rachel's eyes no longer held any warmth. "Your apology has no value. Goodbye, Michael." 30 minutes later, Elizabeth, Michael, and the mistress left the house with their belongings. Bailiffs installed new locks and handed the keys to Rachel. A small applause arose from the neighbors. "I was sick of that arrogant attitude," Mrs. Grace's voice could be heard. "Well done, Rachel." Media cameras followed Elizabeth's group as they left. Even a local news helicopter filmed the situation from above. The news of former bank branch manager exposed for misconduct, forced eviction, would circulate throughout Texas that day. Rachel entered the house quietly, clutching the new keys. In what was once her bedroom, traces remained of Michael and his mistress's breakfast. Elizabeth's vanity was scattered with expensive skincare products. "Please clean up," she instructed the cleaning service. The house would be listed for sale tomorrow. There was no need to remain trapped in past memories. Outside, the Texas morning sun shone brightly, heralding the start of a new day. "It's all over," Rachel called Morrison, who had been waiting. "Perfect execution, as planned." "Congratulations," Morrison's voice carried sincere blessing. "Now you can start a new life." Rachel paused in the entrance hall. She remembered the day a year ago when she chose this house to please her mother-in-law. But now, this grand space held no old memories. "Well," she said, her heels clicking as she walked toward the entrance. "Let's prepare for what's next." 6 months after the forced execution, Austin showed signs of autumn. Elizabeth's fall was more dramatic than expected. Beyond the gift contract violation, her past bank misconduct was also exposed. Expelled from the Riverbend Church Women's Group, she completely lost her place in social circles. Living alone in a cheap apartment in the north, Elizabeth had aged dramatically in just 6 months. No more luxury brand bags or expensive skincare products. She was now seen bargain hunting in supermarket clearance sections every morning. Where did the Campbell family pride go? Whispers from neighborhood housewives reached her ears. Life in the former luxury residential area now seemed like a dream. One day, Elizabeth wrote a long letter to Rachel. "Rachel, I cannot find words to apologize. I was trapped in foolish arrogance and lost what was most precious. I've ruined my son's life too. This sin can never be atoned for." The letter was returned marked "Address unknown." Michael's fate was even more miserable. After his affair scandal was reported, his position at the company rapidly deteriorated. Beyond poor performance, he lost client trust as a moral hazard. The mistress left Michael immediately after the incident. "I never meant to get caught up in such a scandal," she said tearfully before abandoning him. Unemployed, Michael became pursued by debt collectors. Unable to stay at his mother's apartment, he began living in former colleagues' offices. The elite mask had fallen away, exposing his inner weakness. Texas Morning News reported the Campbell family's downfall as justice for arrogance. In Texas's conservative society, condemnation was merciless for the two who had betrayed family values. Meanwhile, Rachel's life gained new brilliance. At the law firm, her reputation soared. Her perfect legal preparation and cool judgment earned many clients' trust. She became widely known in legal circles as the expert in defending against malicious contract violations. Her relationship with her parents was also restored. "I'm so proud of your strength," her mother said tearfully, embracing Rachel. Her father, too, deeply understood his daughter's choices. One rainy day, Rachel gazed out the window of her new office. The Austin skyline viewed from the top floor of the skyscraper sparkled like a new world. Rachel called David Clark, a senior partner at the same firm. He had long valued Rachel's capabilities. "I have a new project to discuss." It was a significant job, restructuring the legal department of a major real estate development company. Ironically, it was a competitor of the company where Michael had worked. "We need a trustworthy lawyer," the client highly valued Rachel's abilities. "We're looking for someone with justice and integrity like you." After the business meeting, David invited Rachel to dinner. He was an honest and intellectual man who brought quiet peace to Rachel's heart. Their conversation naturally flowed from legal topics to deep insights about life. In her new office desk drawer, the old gift deed was carefully preserved. "Why did you include those special provisions?" To David's question, Rachel smiled quietly. Legal intuition. Sometimes a person's true nature only becomes visible within the framework of a contract. The calculation in Elizabeth's eyes, the weakness hidden behind Michael's words. "I saw through it all." "But why did you wait a year?" "I needed evidence. And time for them to fully understand their own mistakes." Rachel's voice no longer held any hatred. Perfect legal action requires perfect timing. David nodded appreciatively. "You used the law not as a weapon, but as a shield. That's why you gained so much support." Outside, the Texas sunset blazed brilliantly, announcing the arrival of a new season. Rachel closed the old gift deed. It had become an important document recording a major turning point in her life. A record of perfect revenge, and simultaneously, a testament marking the beginning of a new life. "Justice sometimes comes in unexpected forms," she murmured to herself. "But it is surely realized." A new star began to shine in the Texas sky. It looked like the smile of the goddess of justice. On Rachel's desk calendar, a dinner date with David was marked. Life was opening a new page with unexpected happiness. Everything began with one gift deed. But it wasn't merely a story of revenge. It was also a story of hope, telling of the realization of justice and the beginning of a new life. The hope-filled night deepens in Austin. Tomorrow will bring another new morning. And Rachel's life will continue with new brilliance.